Welcome to the second Linux user group of what month is this? This is still April, right? Yeah, of April. It's hard to believe that we're moving on to May already. This year is gonna be like half over in like a month. It's insane. It just feels like yesterday was Christmas. So we are going to be talking about choosing the right Linux distribution and how you go about doing that. So a pretty noob-friendly topic, but I think everyone should have an opinion on it. So we'll go ahead and jump right on into that. And also, Matt decided not to mute his phone right before the thing. That bodes well for everything else. Do not disturb. Thank you very much. All right. So I'll just open it up. What do you guys think when you first switched to Linux? How did you choose? What was your criteria for choosing that very first distro? Who wants to go first? Looks like Objects Country's got to go first. Go ahead.
All right. So first off, what got me into Linux was a community college class going over like how to work with it. Like I think as a sysadmin, but also as a user. I don't really remember. But I already before that I already had a friend who used Linux, and she recommended that I use Manjaro when I asked her. But I asked another friend, and they recommended Mint instead. I I don't remember the details, but I do remember my first distro was Mint. So I think that's how I got started. It was 21.3, I believe.
Well, I think a lot of people end up starting with Mint. That's because it feels like Mint isn't something that you find on your own, but it's very community recommended, right? Um, Jerry, go ahead.
So my start with Linux was back in 2013 when my great grandfather got his first laptop, and it had Ubuntu 12.0 for LTS on it. And at first I was like, "Ooh, this one has Windows Vista on it. I love Windows Vista. I know hot tech, but here I am." And I wanted to experience the good old Windows Vista again, but very quickly I noticed this isn't Windows. What the actual hell am I using right now? So I noticed Ubuntu, and I kind of liked it, so I installed it on my own PC, and yeah, that's pretty much my entire start of Linux. I later then discovered Mint is a thing, Fedora is a thing, OpenSUSE is a thing. Back when OpenSUSE still was on 13.2, I guess. But I always stuck to Ubuntu up until late 2021, actually.
D-dubs? Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I was actually doing something else for a second. My actual exposure, I started with Sun OS systems in Berkeley, Unix, moved to a company, and they were actually using very, very early releases of Debian for an internal project to control hardware. It was actually kind of interesting. So I won't say forced, but that was my exposure to, like I say, very, very early Debian.
Okay. Fraggle, go ahead.
I got here a bit late, but I assume from what everybody's saying, it's when they started using Linux or what their first distro was, something along those lines. So for me, it was 1995, and it was pretty much the first release of Red Hat, like not RHEL, not Red Hat Enterprise Linux, but actual Red Hat. So yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah. So when I first started in 2017, like full time. So my very first distro back in 2003 was SUSE, and the reason why I chose that is I didn't choose it; it was handed to me. It was like literally somebody handed me a CD, and I installed it because I was a nerd. It didn't last very long. I wanted games, and there were no games, so I went back to Windows. But in 2017, when I decided I was going to go switch full time, I basically I remembered SUSE, but I didn't really try it. Instead, I knew what Ubuntu was, so I went with Ubuntu because everyone knows. If you know what Linux is, chances are you probably know what Ubuntu is. So that's the reason why I chose Ubuntu. And after that, it was just a discovery of, every Linux distro. So, Fraggle, go ahead.
I didn't realize my hand went up.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. So I think that the problem with the topic in general is that most people who choose their first distro don't know anything. Like you don't know what you need, you don't know what works, you don't know what doesn't work, you don't know, what the community is like, you don't know, what the, how easy something is to install, how likely it is to work on your hardware. So choosing that first distro, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, is mostly just chance of circumstance. So like D-Dubs, you probably just, had a circumstance where someone told you about what you used. Fraggle, you probably the same, right? You didn't go out and explicitly choose it. Maybe I'm making an assumption there, but it was just a chance of circumstance. Either someone gave it to you,
Yeah.
someone recommended it to you, or whatever.
Well, no, they were literally, the guys there were developing Debian, uh, and what it was, very very quickly, what it was used for is you could put a whole bunch of serial ports in a Debian system. They would connect to storage controllers, and then we wrote software that would take the messages from the storage and turn them into SNMP traps, SMTP for mail alerts, and so forth. So it was actually really, really cool. But we're talking, the 90s. Um, so it was, the choice was done for me. But once I got into it, it was amazing. I go, but those are the bad old days compared to today, dealing with Linux and drivers and everything else. Because this is actually, really before X was really a big thing on Linux. The old X free 86. If you ever want to go through hell, guys, try that. If you think Linux from scratch is hard, try old hardware with all that on it.
Having to compile your audio drivers so that you can actually hear things. Yeah, we all remember those days.
Oh no, but don't do that. But don't forget the jumpers on the interrupts on all the cards.
Yeah.
And then you've got to set the driver to work at those interrupts levels.
Well, and back in the days when you actually had actual sound card, and you had to deal with,
Yeah. Exactly.
PCIe and all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it's hard to ask how do you choose, how would regular people choose, but I think what we can turn this into is how, if there was a way to, let's posit a scenario. Your mom wants to use Linux. She's read about it in a magazine or something. I don't know. How would you go about helping her choose a Linux distro? What, not necessarily what distro would you choose for her, although that may end up being the case, but what would you how would you help someone who has a very base level of knowledge about Linux but has never used it before actually make the choice of a certain distro that could be right for them? Anybody got a way we can start there? Objects, countries, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would first ask. Oh wait, hold on. Okay, yeah, I would first ask what softwares you most commonly use and see which distributions of Linux are most. For example, let's say they use Chrome, right? On Mint, Debian, Ubuntu, all that. Chrome isn't automatically managed by apt, but rather, but it is available as an unofficial Flatpak. So maybe if they want the satisfaction of just typing one or two commands to update literally everything, which I know I do, and that's something to introduce later. But if they, the availability of software is what I'm getting at. Like how available is their software in like a package manager or a Flatpak or whatever? Like it comes down to like what you're going to use their computer for.
Yeah, I'm there with you. It's specifically with Chrome that most people are like, if I were to finally get my mother to switch to Linux, Chrome would definitely be something that would have to be there. And Chrome also does this stupid thing, at least on Ubuntu, where it asks you for a password every time you start it up. So I'd have to fix that. I don't know why I thought about that, but that's just dumb. Bird Realist, go ahead. Yeah, we can't hear you. Linux audio problems. I'm guessing you probably chose the wrong source in Jitsi. If you get it fixed, raise your hand again. So definitely software availability, but do you guys think that that's as big of a deal these days as it used to be? Because basically every distro has access to basically everything that you can think of. Fraggle, I think you had your hand up first. Go ahead.
I think software is part of it, yeah. But I also think more relevant in recent times is hardware, right? I mean, if somebody just built a new rig and they're running like a 50 series or like a 9070 or anything like that, then they're going to want something cutting edge. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to set it up themselves. You could set it up for them and just give them basic building blocks and, be their tether to, one-on-one support as they kind of navigate their way through that. Something like Debian isn't really going to be the best choice for somebody that wants to run it on a new build. Like, hey, I want to get into Linux, but I want to do a new build to get into it. Whereas if they have an old ThinkPad that they picked up for $50 at a yard sale and they're like, yeah, I want to tinker with Linux on this, sure, Mint or Debian or whatever would work well for that. Software aside, because you can pretty much make any software work on any distro. There's app images, Flatpak, snaps, you name it, like even Docker, like you can set up a rudimentary Docker for somebody if they really need something specific that doesn't necessarily even jive well with Linux, like DaVinci Resolve, right? So yeah, I think hardware plays a really big factor in deciding nowadays.
Definitely. Jerry, go ahead.
So the software availability has gotten way better in the last 10 years even. So I wouldn't say that's an issue anymore, not counting the Adobe suite, of course. But about the hardware thing, Fraggle brought up a great point. I even have an example for that because my best friend built his new PC back when Ryzen 7000 launched, and he told me, dude, I want to switch, I want to try Linux. Would you help me do that? And I was like, oh, dude, that's gonna be painful because Ryzen 7000 just launched. He also got a shiny new graphics card with it. I already told him it will be art. It will be a lot of terminal stuff. So you're sure about that? He was sure about that, and he managed to do it. But he's a special case in that regard. So the thing is, software availability is easy with Flatpak snaps, and hardware is a thing, but it's way better than, let's say, 10 years ago, where you still had to pray that your hardware works. So
Yeah,
there's that at least.
yeah. I think that's definitely true that it is better than it used to be, but there's still pain points, especially with laptops. It feels like laptops is the big deal, because of the differences that they put into it. And really, what we're talking about is a Wi-Fi card, because a lot of times the Wi-Fi card is where things get messed up. If you're talking about like a PC build itself, then you're talking about recent graphics drivers and stuff, and then in which case you're right, Fraggle, Debian's not going to be the correct answer. For me, if I were to have this question, I'd have the discussion of and I wouldn't even really have a discussion about it. It's like the person I'm talking to probably wants their computer to work. And that automatically rules out some distros because they break, like things like Arch, Gentoo, obviously Linux from scratch. I mean, I'm going to put my mom on Linux from scratch. That'd be hilarious. Things like that. Probably OpenSUSE rules out that. Debian probably even that because of the older packaging, harder to install, and all that stuff. So automatically there are certain things that there's just distros that I would never recommend, and doesn't mean that those distros are bad. It just means that they're not going to be good for specifically new users. And then there's distros that you can recommend, but maybe might not necessarily be the right choice for other reasons. Things like vanilla Ubuntu, I wouldn't recommend that to a new user simply because of the UI of it. It's not Windows-like. If someone's coming from Windows, Ubuntu doesn't look like Windows and would be harder for someone who's not a Linux nerd to actually get a hold of right out of the box. That doesn't mean they can't. It just means that it would make the entire process difficult. And I think that one of the things that has to be taken into account when you're trying to get someone to switch to Linux is that you want to make the process as easy and seamless as possible. And I think that chances are, if they're not going to be the ones installing it, the number one thing that you have to think of is that ease of transition between whatever they were using before and whatever they're using now, and UI plays a big role in that. So something like Linux Mint that is much more Windows-like in terms of UI makes sense. Something like anything that uses Plasma, kind of, although Plasma is so complicated in every application in every way, it's hard to recommend that for a brand new user as well. So I think my point is that if you take out all the things that you can't recommend, there are only a few things that you can. And when you're trying to get someone to make the choice between those distros, it's both easier than you think it is because you've narrowed the pool down to just a few distros, but also harder because they then have to really differentiate between Linux Mint and say Ubuntu Budgie or Ubuntu Cinnamon or whatever you point them at. Those things are basically the exact same thing, just one has Flatpaks, one has snaps. And I don't know about you guys, but did anybody here imagine explaining a situation with someone who's non-technical what a snap and a Flatpak is? Nobody's really having that conversation. They're just pointing towards, hey, can I get Chrome? Can I get, Discord? Whatever they need. So I think that the bottom line is just that getting people to choose between those just few distros that can actually be recommended and differentiating between them is hard. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why when I think the most of us do this, we just say we choose for them, right? We make that choose for them. So I guess the question is, if someone were to stumble into Linux, how would they make that choice? Anybody have anything to say about that? I'm also watching the draft along the side, so if I get a little distracted, you guys know why. Going once, twice, before we move on to the next topic already? Did we burn this one through already? Anybody? Hunter, go ahead. Don't forget to unmute yourself. No, you're still muted. Oh, you don't want to say anything? Okay. All right. What was the second topic? I have to go find that out. I didn't think we'd burn through one that fast. Fraggle, go ahead.
I think I might have missed the last question that you asked.
Well, just if someone stumbles upon Linux, other than does it work? Do I get the software? How do you differentiate between the distros that are basically, maybe it's just the cynicism in my voice that's coming across, is that all distros are the same and they don't matter. So how do you get them to choose between things that are basically the same?
I mean, they're not quite all the same. I mean, obviously, I run Venom. It's definitely not the same as most distros out there, right? Like everything is source, everything. It was a long, hard road. Like for a while, I ran at like Blender in Docker or through Docker because I needed the AMD HIP stuff for the Cycles render engine. And it took me a really, really long time to figure out how to actually compile Rockham and HIP from source to get it to work without Docker. But, something like Mint, I think, and the way they do package management and stuff like that, like as far as I remember, Mint has like a software store kind of thing, more so than something like Debian with the same desktop environment on it, right? You still have to go into the terminal to install and run updates and everything like that. So I think one of the big questions, and it is kind of software related as well, is like, how much time do you want to spend in the terminal, or how comfortable would you be if you had to use it?
That is a good point. Also, I mean, how good of a support system do you have? I mean, if you are, if you're the one installing it and maintaining it, you're going to spend more time in the terminal than if you have a support system for someone who, someone who can do that kind of stuff for you if need be, right? Bird Realist, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hey, that's great to hear. Right, so I really think that the question of should a person have to choose a Linux distribution should be something brought up. Like, we're talking about how they choose it, what a person just stumbling upon should think about, but I really don't think that there's much of a reason beyond heavily technical and personal decisions around computers why somebody should pick literally anything but Ubuntu. I don't like Ubuntu because of snaps. I just don't like the system. I hate how their UI looks, but for the average user, I really don't believe that a decision should be made. It should just be a default one, and if you don't like how it looks, pick another Ubuntu flavor. Kubuntu, I'd suggest, because KDE is the best. But I really disagree with the notion that a person should even be thinking about what distro they're choosing if they're new to Linux.
Well, in a perfect world, you're probably right, but the choice does exist because of all the distros that are out there, and I think right. But real question to take that kind of yours a little bit further is, let's say in this world where people know more than they do when they first start out, we really can, or better yet, let me put it this way. In a world where all Linux nerds agree that there are only two distros that can be for new users, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, right? And those are the two that basically everyone chooses anyway, so we can kind of make that assumption. If that's the choice that people have to make, it's kind of hard to differentiate between those unless you can teach the person a little bit about the UI of them, because those are the two things that are going to be different, at least vanilla Ubuntu and Linux Mint, and the differences between Flatpaks and snaps, which is just an asinine conversation to have with someone who's brand new to Linux. So it's really, you're right that choice shouldn't exist, but the perils of having so many choices to begin with necessitates there a choice being made, right? Hunter, go ahead. If you want to talk, you got to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I actually am new to Linux myself. The way I choose the distro is because I just went on eBay and bought my computer pre-installed with Ubuntu on it. So yeah, and plus I am kind of familiar with the terminal because I did use Chrome OS for a little bit with Linux on with the Linux terminal on it. So I am kind of familiar, but yeah, been using Linux for only a few months now, so I am a new user. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing is sometimes you just get a computer with Linux on it. I wish that was a situation that more people encounter. Fraggle, go ahead.
So Matt, you mentioned also like what kind of support system a person would have, if they were to take the dive and switch over. And I think that's a strong point as well, because there are some communities out there that are not so kind to new users. Especially when Jerry, I saw that. But especially when the users don't really know how to form a question or how to ask, what they're meaning to ask or what they want to ask to troubleshoot and stuff like that. Like, whereas I don't know much about the Ubuntu communities or anything like that, but I know when you're searching for some odd answer to something, you come across some random bug or some random thing that you're trying to do. 9 times out of 10, you're on Stack Exchange, and the answer is geared towards Ubuntu. I know the Mint community is pretty warm and welcoming and everything like that. Manjaro is, on the cusp of Arch, but not quite there. But, for those support systems, when, say, if I were to recommend it to a friend or, to my wife or anything like that, and I'm not available and they have, an imminent question or anything like that, that they just need answered on the fly, like where do they go? And, how tolerant are they to potential backlash or even sarcasm, right? Things like that. Whereas some communities can be very unwelcoming.
Very true. I also think that the biggest problem, so you know what Linux is, and you know that there's a choice to be made. So what's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go to Google and say, what's the best distro for beginners? Or you're going to ask ChatGPT or whatever the kids are doing these days, right? And what's that going to get? What answers is that going to give you? It's going to give you a top 10 SEO'd to hell list of the top 10 distros, probably written in 2017 or 2012 or something like that. And some of those distros probably won't even exist anymore. Maybe you'll get something a little bit newer and you will get, a reasonable list, but you could go to the next list and they'll be in a completely different order because that person had a different experience with Ubuntu, or maybe they like Linux Mint better, or maybe they're crazy and say you should use Manjaro as your first distro, which I think is nuts. But I think that the biggest problem I have with the entire question is that it's impossible to make the choice when there are so many choices, and the help that you would get to make the choice can't agree on it, right? Like, we could go around, there's 7 of us here. We could ask every single person, what's the best distro for a brand new user? We may have some agreement amongst 3 of us, but the other 4 would answer something different, and that displays the problem of how to answer the given question of how do you choose, because none of us could choose. And Milo in the chat, I think it was Milo, I'm never remember how to pronounce your name. One of these days I'm going to know. He asked who's actually making the choice. Is it a brand new Linux user? Is it someone like me? Because if we were to make this choice and we knew what we know now, actually making the choice would be a little bit easier because we know shit, right? Jerry, did you want to go, or did you put your hands down? All right, Raggle, go ahead.
That's actually kind of where I was going to try to direct the conversation as well. Because I think so far the topic we've been focusing on like a new user and what we would do to kind of feel out what the best distro might be for a new user and everything like that. But we're all, aside from maybe Hunter, we're all, intermediate to advanced Linux users at this point, right? Like, I mean, Matt, you chose OpenSUSE. You chose it to start as the challenge, I think, and now you're kind of stuck on it. You enjoy it. You're in that kind of atmosphere, and you like it there. So, for me, like with Venom, it's that I have top down, inside, outside, every way I look at it, I have absolute complete control over my system. That's why I go with Venom. If it wasn't Venom, it would probably be a custom LFS build, but Venom just made LFS a bit easier, So I guess maybe I'll pose the question to kind of everybody else is like, how did you choose the distro that you're on? Or are you still kind of hopping, looking for that one that you want to settle on and are going to be happy with for a prolonged period of time?
Anybody? Bird Realist, go ahead.
Yeah, how I picked mine is just because I had a lot of issues with Manjaro, swapped over to Endeavor, figured out Endeavor's was just Arch, and I've been on Arch for many years. I just kind of fell into it. Only reason I was on Manjaro was because of Linus Tech Tips, so hey, wanted to stick with what you know, what you're learning. You just kind of fell into it.
I'm sorry, you said... I can't. I noticed you said Manjaro because of Linus. Because of Linus, that's how you started. Okay.
Yes.
I guess the Linux challenge did do some good then. I always thought that was pretty much a flop because of all the bad reviews bad things he said about it. That's very interesting. So you haven't hopped around to non-Arch distros at all?
I usually have a second partition for like work and stuff like that just to run on. And I've tried a few distributions for that, Fedora, OpenSUSE, and a few others, but my main system's been Arch ever since I switched like 3 months into my Linux journey.
And is there, other than base familiarity, is there a reason why Arch is the thing for you? Is it, I mean, it's the AUR, right? Is that the reason why?
Might be, honestly.
Yeah.
But really, I could probably stay with anything.
Okay. It's just interesting for me because I used to be the Arch guy. Like Arch used to be my thing, and I find it fascinating now that I wouldn't use Arch. You could pay me. I mean, I was gonna say like, you couldn't pay me to use Arch, but you could pay me. It wouldn't even be that much. Like you could give me a couple of dollars, and I'd probably use Arch for a little while. But I just there was a point in my Linux journey where Arch was like a necessity. Like I couldn't breathe without the AUR, and because it's just so cool. Like if you need if you're installing random window manager number 42, and you need some dependency because they've tied their dependency to whatever version of WL roots, you can go get that from the AUR. Whereas on Debian or Ubuntu, you'd have to build it, go find it on a GitHub page somewhere, and install Ninja or Mason or something like that. And the AUR was so good, but as I moved away from that and moved to first Fedora and then OpenSUSE, there are situations where I miss the AUR, but for the most part, I find myself in like, what? I have the vast majority of the things that I need. The AUR isn't as special as I remember it being. I can just go use something like the Open Build service on OpenSUSE or Copper on Fedora. Those things aren't as big as the AUR, but they have, a lot of stuff. So it's just, Arch is one of those distros where I used it for a long time. I loved it. I swore by it. And now I'm like, okay, maybe I think that now that so just to answer Fraggle's question, I chose OpenSUSE because I wanted a challenge, and also because not a lot of people use OpenSUSE as their distro of choice, and I wanted something that was a little bit off the beaten path. Choosing something like Ubuntu or Linux Mint would be, a little bit too common. So that's part of the reasons why I chose it. But one of the reasons why I've stuck around is just because it's been astonishingly stable, and I think that I reached a point in my Linux time is like I needed something that just it works, and it works very well, has all the software that I need for the most part, has the ability to get more if I need it, and it just works really, really well. And as I've gone through this 2-year challenge, at the beginning of the challenge, if you'd asked me, do distros matter, I would probably tell you yes, because of package management, not necessarily because of package availability, but because package managers, because of ease of install, things like that. Now, if you ask me that question, I'm like, and in the grand scheme of things, there are certain distros that are different. So like Venom, for example, Fraggle, or Gentoo, or Linux from scratch. But if you're talking about the normal distros, Ubuntu, anything based on Debian, things based on Arch, OpenSUSE, Fedora, those things, I consider the normal distros. The differences between those are fairly small. Yeah, there's differences, but if you're just a regular user, you're going to go get the software you need from a store somewhere. You're not going to have an interface with DNF or Zipper or whatever, right? You're just going to go open the GNOME Software Center or store or whatever and get your software that way. That's the way it's going to be. And that experience is the exact same whether you're using Fedora or you're using Ubuntu. It's basically exactly the same. So it's not, I think that the reason why I had a harder time with this question is just because if someone were to ask me how you choose the right one, my answer to that question would be like, first off, there isn't a right one, but also it doesn't matter. Just choose one. Literally throw a dart at the board and you would be there and you'd probably be fine. If you started off on Linux Mint and you had a good experience, that's probably where you'll stay if you're a normal person and you don't know what distro hopping even is, right? Or if you started on Ubuntu, chances are, as long as you had a good experience, that's where you'd stay. all the rest. So I think that that's where I'm coming from with this whole question. American Legend, thanks for the membership. I really appreciate it. I saw that in the chat a few minutes ago, so thank you so very much. So who else? How did you open up the rest of the panel to answer Fraggle's question? What distro are you on? We asked earlier, what distro did you start with? What distro are you on right now, and how did you choose that, Jerry?
Right now I'm on Ubuntu 25.04 and I only chose it because I wanted to check it out because it just recently dropped, and I have to say I'm impressed. So Ubuntu has been pretty bad in recent years, but this release is so damn stable, and right now I haven't booted my Gentoo install in like 3 days. The whole 3 days I have Ubuntu installed. So, and I don't have the intention to reboot and boot Gentoo right now.
Are you using vanilla Ubuntu, or are you using a flavor vanilla?
No, Ubuntu with no.
I don't think we can be friends anymore. I'm just kidding. Hunter, go ahead. Don't forget.
I'm just using vanilla Ubuntu. So yeah, I'm using 2404 LTS. So because it's more, because I just thought it'd be more stable and stuff. So yeah, yeah. The reason I chose mine is because I actually bought my computer. I have an Intel NUC, and I just chose it because it was real cheap. It was only like $50 on eBay. So yeah, I just I'm coming from Windows and Chrome OS, so I did use the terminal a little bit. So the terminal doesn't scare me any.
Was Ubuntu the distro that came on your laptop, or have you switched since then?
Yeah, no. Actually, I came from a Chromebook, and the distro that came on my mini. I use a Intel NUC, and Ubuntu came on my mini PC.
Okay. Anybody else want to answer the question, what they're on right now and how they made the choice? Okay. GNU to Linux, go ahead.
I was going to answer and say I started with a Linux distro briefly on an old computer called Q4OS because it was so light it was able to run on my ancient computer. I did not want to mess with my main computer until I had some experience with Linux. And it was fine. It's Debian based. It's very lightweight. It's fine for what it is. But after the research I did, I read so many recommendations for Linux Mint, being similar to Windows 7 or 10, or suitable for people who, like myself, have used Windows for decades. I switched to it, and I have not regretted it one bit. Cinnamon to me is very, very comfortable. Even the keyboard shortcuts, which are very important to me, right out of the box, were ideal. Of course, we all know you can change those things, and I have customized mine quite a bit. But a lot of them I had literally decades of muscle movement of how to open up a file manager, or all those kind of things. And to me, it's very comfortable, and I'm sticking with it for the foreseeable future.
I always hear good things about Cinnamon, but I've never spent much time in it. I should probably do that. A lot of people say, like, oh, Cinnamon's really, really good. I don't know that much about it, to be honest with you. I've used it, obviously, but never for any length of time. Most of my desktop environment experiences in GNOME and KDE, Mate a lot in the back in the day, Budgie, which does anybody actually use Budgie anymore? I mean, I know they're still in development, but they change their minds so often on different things that just it's weird. Anyways, anybody else want to answer this question, or are we going to go ahead and move on to topic number 2? Going once, twice. GNU to Linux, go ahead.
I'll just add one thing specifically for me, and as far as I know, I haven't distro hopped much on my alternate computers, but the one killer feature for Cinnamon for me is when you hit the super or the Windows button, the menu pops up, and you could, just like on Windows, it's exactly the same, and you could type the name of the program you want to open up, like FIR, for Firefox, boom, it opens. I've tried XFCE and some other desktop environments on other computers, and none of them do that. There's all kinds of launchers you could use, but it doesn't work exactly like that. To me, that's the killer feature, because that's how I open up all my programs. Super, in the first two letters of the program, boom, and enter. It opens in like a second or less.
You'd probably do really well on GNOME too, because it works the same. It just doesn't look the same. Because it opens up the explosion view or whatever they call it these days. But yeah, I get that, because on like Plasma, they fixed it now, so it kind of works on some distros. So if you hit the meta key, it opens up. But it didn't always used to be like that. It used to, you have to go in the settings and actually make that a thing in order to get that to work. Which I always thought was like you've gone to all this work to make it look like Windows and not have it fun. It was weird. All right. Unless anybody else wants to go, we're going to go ahead and move on to the second place topic, which was curating your own music versus streaming subscriptions. So let's do just a quick poll. Who hosts their own music, movies, and media, or other media, and who has streaming services instead? So anybody who wants to go first? Fraggle, go ahead.
I host. I have to. I can't rely on other services or anything like that. I have to host it myself. I use Jellyfin, and I curate a lot of my own stuff. Even I think the most recent one that I did was Green Day released. Well, they didn't release. They did a raffle for items like a wax cylinder, X-ray vinyl, Teddy Ruxpin doll, stuff like that. They did their Dookie album, but they did it demastered instead of remastered. It was only open to U.S. citizens, and you had to buy like a raffle ticket for whatever item you wanted, and each item only had a single song on it. There was limited quantities and everything like that, and you better believe I got every single one of those songs. I might acquire the items myself at a later date and put those songs onto those items, just like they did. But I don't feel like music or art of any kind should be exclusionary like that. I don't like that at all. I think it should be available to whoever wants to listen to it. So
makes sense. Bird Realist, go ahead.
Yeah, I need Spotify. I have streaming, of course. I need it. I need the recommendations, man. I don't know how to find music. I'm a Zoomer.
Okay. Back in the day, we used to have this thing called radio. Okay, so they do actually still have that. Jerry, go ahead.
Just like Bird Realist, I'm a streamer because I don't have any movies or shows that I watch. So Jellyfin and Plex is already out in my case, and as for music, actually buying the songs that I listen to is basically impossible because my genre goes all in on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, you name it. So I have Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music, and yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot to say on this topic, but I'll wait for a minute because I'm kind of in the middle of everybody. Hunter, go ahead.
I usually use Kodi for my music and stuff for all my pictures because I'm trying to build a library because I just want it to be free and just ad free and stuff because I usually hate ads in between my music and stuff, and I'm cheap. I don't want to pay for it I mean, why pay for something you already have? I mean, if it's there and you have it, I mean, um, so yeah, just the adverts annoy me, and so yeah.
So for me personally, I'm a mix. So I self-host all my movies and TV shows, and I get them from various places. So either I rip them from DVDs or whatever. Um, Honestly, it was Blu-rays for a while, and then recently, or for Christmas, I got a DVD set and remembered that DVD's only 720p or whatever it is. And I was like, "What the hell is this?" It was really bad. So I had to figure out how to get those in HD. But so with all video, I self-host, and I use Plex to do that. Although maybe not for very much longer, given how horrendous they are with their pricing. I did buy a lifetime subscription before they like tripled the price or whatever it was recently. So yeah, I have that. But for and for books, I self-host all of my books. Although I do end up sending them to the Kindle app just because it's easier to get cross-platform and have everything kind of synced. But I actually own all the EPUBs that I have, and I manage them with Calibre. For music though, I'm in a rough spot. So I have multiple dozens of gigabytes of music on my hard drive that I've been collecting since LimeWire days. And go ahead and YouTube demonetize me. I don't care. I did it. So I have a ton of music on my hard drives, but the metadata is so bad. A lot of them are really poor quality, so I can be listening to one at a certain level, volume level, and get to the next one, and it's like, oh, it's really quiet, and then the next one's like 9,000 decibels or whatever, and my ears are bleeding. And yeah, Plex or whatever has the ability to level those things up, but it doesn't work very well. So I still end up with ears that either can't hear it or can hear too well. So with music, it's just my library is in such a rough spot that I stream. I have a year subscription to Deezer. And recently, I switched to Android, and the Deezer app is kind of broken on Android. To be honest with you, it loads things twice, and you kind of have to press the play pause button twice if you want to actually play or pause. So it's really annoying, and things like it's just a broken mess of things. So I got an offer from Spotify for 3 months for like 99 cents. So I got that and tried that out. I've been trying out other ones. So I for music, streaming is really hard to get away from if you either like me have a whole bunch of, a poorly put together library, or you're like Bird Realist there and you want to be able to discover music. One of the best ways to do that is through streaming these days, because unless you do go listen to AM/FM radio, how do you actually have exposure to new music these days? Now, I'm 40 years old. I'm not necessarily discovering new music very much these days, because after you pass a certain age, you just listen to whatever you listened to in high school. Apparently those are the rules. But it's just that still, if you want to have the ability to like just shuffle through things that aren't necessarily in your library, it's kind of hard unless you're going to just do it on YouTube, which a lot of kids these days just do. GNU to Linux, go ahead.
Music. I'm a Gen Xer who hasn't really gotten into any new bands or artists in 30 years. So I'm not really discovering new music. I just don't care. But I very passionately follow the bands and musicians who are still touring, still alive, still touring, and still out there, of which there are several. And, I still support them on the occasions when they release albums. I'll buy the CD for $12, big deal. It's not that many per year that I have to do that. But I do find that I like to collect live performances. The official albums, I have them all. And they're all, everything's on YouTube. Like, I'll just make a general statement. Almost, I don't know why people subscribe to music streaming services, because when I go on YouTube and like look up random stuff, old albums from years ago that I want to listen to, it's all there pretty much. So the official albums are all on YouTube, and as far as I can tell. But when my favorite musician goes on tour and does radio show appearances or goes on tour and plays live in clubs and people record that, to me, that's unique to me. Those are like one-off, sometimes unique versions of those songs, and those I collect, and those I store locally. I don't have an app really. I just play them on one desktop that has really good speakers attached to it. So if I want to rock out, I'll use an app called Audacious. It doesn't stream over a network, is what I mean. It's just local. It looks like Winamp. It's like a clone for Winamp back in the day, and that's what I use. I don't really need a streaming service because I'll just collect stuff that I find online, and I've already got all their albums.
So just before I move on, I have two things. First off, DT, I know they need a quarterback. Why aren't they taking a quarterback? Sorry. It's so silly. But to answer your question, GNU Linux, about YouTube, for me personally, a lot of YouTube videos have skits at the beginning or a lot of white space before they actually get to the song, and that drives me bonkers. So for me on for streaming services don't usually do that, and also the YouTube app just isn't, unless you pay for premium, which I mean I do, but I mean a lot of people don't. You can't listen to that in the background. So if you're on the go with your mobile phone, you either have to leave the screen on, or you have to use an alternate streaming or YouTube, application, and that's not always available to you if you're like on iOS or whatever. So there's legitimate reasons why YouTube's not the answer. Although a lot of kids do, like I said, they do and I do too. Like I will get a lot of music from YouTube, and that does lead to some discovery. But mostly, like for whatever reason, listen to one thing of one specific artist, and that's all you'll hear for the rest of your life. Trafficking, go ahead.
On music and video, it's been a long time coming because I've wanted to do a video on this for a long time, but I haven't found a good solution. My only solution right now is I have an old laptop that is hooked up to the TV, and I just open that and then I log into my brother's Netflix account, and that is how it works. There is no science to it. It is just a normal machine. It just runs Fedora something. I don't remember what number. That's all there is to it. What's the only difference? Has a wireless keyboard. That's it. I don't have. There's not really anything else to it. And everyone. Well, all right. Here's another thing that really gets me. Like Linux users and music players, I literally do not understand. There is a thing that there's this thing out there. Okay, it's really cool. It's a great music player. All right. It's called MPV. You could just use that. It works everywhere. It's great. You don't need to have all these VLC or what's the other ones, like Rhythm Box and uh what's the one of the wolf? I forget. I completely forget.
Elisa?
Oh well, I guess that works too. I guess. Yeah, sure.
There's so many, and Trafficton's like anti UI. He wants
It's
very
like,
minimal, right?
Odorak or whatever, the one with the wolf.
If it has Chrome on it, it's too
Amarok.
much.
There we go.
Yeah.
To rack the brain a little bit. That's how you know I'm getting old. But like the other thing that really, like, I don't know, I guess bugs me is like the streaming situation on Linux is not the greatest because most services will lock you to 720p. Netflix, Netflix and Disney Plus do this. It's awful. And what you have to resort to doing, and I hate that I had to do this, was on that computer, I have a Windows VM. The sole job is to open Microsoft Edge and play anything bigger than 1080p. It is very depressing.
It is sad when you have to install Microsoft Edge. Hunter, go ahead. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Okay, what I do for YouTube and stuff on my TV, my bedroom, I use this app on a Fire Stick. It's called a Smart Cube. It doesn't have any advertisements or anything. So yeah, that's what I do and then plus on my freaking computer right here. I mean, it hasn't been working recently, but I was using FreeTube for a little bit without ads. So I've been trying to find YouTube clients to use to help me with so that way I wouldn't have to pay or anything.
Mm-hmm. Fraggle, go ahead.
So for things like discovering new music and everything like that, I mean, any place you go into shop is usually playing music in the background, stuff like that. If you pay attention, if you're aware of it, and everything like that, sometimes I come across new songs that way. Um, Sometimes my wife actually, even just today, apparently Marilyn Manson released a single, which is a cover of Phil Collins' "In the Air Tonight." So that's kind of crazy. Um, it wasn't really my thing. I didn't really enjoy it, but it's a way to discover new music. And I have like a couple music related podcasts that I subscribe to. And sometimes I stream like internet radio as well. So not necessarily AM, FM, but internet radio. So there's still lots of ways to come across and discover new songs without a streaming service, without recommendations and stuff like that. Although, don't get me wrong, recommendations can really kind of keep you within the genres and the tones and musicality that you do enjoy as well. So nothing wrong with that, but there's still plenty of ways to discover and find new music.
So just on, just like, excuse me, if there are obviously, I mean, we joked earlier about AM FM radio, but there's an app called TuneIn. It's been around for a very very long time, and it's on Android and iOS. Has radio stations from around the world that you can go listen to. It's free, so you can download that. Usually they do a pretty good job of making that look and feel modern, but it's still using the same AM FM radio technology. They just are streaming it to your phone. So that
Does it still work without having to plug your headphones in as an antenna?
Oh yeah, because it's not you're not actually using the FM radio waves to your phone. They get the AM FM radio stations to their servers or whatever, and they stream it over the internet to your phone. So it's all internet based. But it works really well. So if that suits your fancy, what I've done is there's like a 3-month trial to Sirius XM radio, which is just nuts. I just get that over and over again when I feel like I want to discover something new, and they will have basically radio stations for everything that you can think of, and they're not radio stations, they're basically just streaming music, but you can go on there and discover a whole bunch of stuff if you want, and then just cancel it at the end of the service. I never pay for it. I don't know how they make any money, because they always offer me a free trial, so I have this thing almost constantly. I can get on there and discover new music. Their app, by the way, is just fucking atrocious, but I don't pay for it, so I don't mind. GNU to Linux, go ahead.
Music aside, I want to promote the usage at your local library for books and movies, because I could tell you here in Broward County, Florida, the library system is excellent. They get if you're a movie fan or even want to watch TV shows, when they put out the collection of the whole season, they get every new movie that's in the theater in as short as 10 or 12 weeks from the day it debuts in the theater. It comes out on Blu-ray and DVD. And the library system here gets them very promptly. So if you can wait, 3 short months or so, every new movie that's in the theater, with very rare exceptions, you could watch for free. And especially if you get the Blu-ray, it's in HD. It's in way better quality and video and sound than anything you'll ever stream. It's free. And not only that, but if you're a cinephile, it will include all the extras, director commentaries, making of, behind the scenes featurettes, and all that kind of stuff. And I go once a week. The library is like a mile or two from my house. It is so worth it. Imagine if they painted it the color of Blockbuster and just called it Blockbuster. Just think of it like that, except there's no junk food they're trying to sell you. You just go in, you book your movie online, you go in, they email you when it shows up. You go, I don't hang out there. I go in, walk in, pick it up, and walk right out. I'm in and out in a minute. So I think it's a great service that more people should take advantage of, especially in this day and age when the prices of every streaming service are going up, up, up. Ticket to the theater are going up, up, up. And you could save a lot of money, and you also don't have to make that choice and go, well, I don't know, do I really want to pay for this? I'll skip this one. I'm not sure I'll like it. You could just, willy-nilly watch, borrow and watch these things and discover a lot of movies and, TV shows that you want to catch up on that way. And of course, the same goes for books. And I'll either pick up hardcover, or paperback books. They get pretty much every major bestseller. They have literally thousands of or hundreds of thousands of obscure or older books. And in addition to that, at least here in Broward County, Florida, if you want to borrow some obscure book, as long as there's some library in the country in the U.S. that has it, they will fetch it for you. And as an interlibrary loan, totally for free, as long as you're patient. Don't mind waiting a couple or 3 weeks to get it. So again, why do you want to pay money? Listen, it's great if you want to support your favorite author, if you're a fiction reader, but otherwise it's all free. And I think a lot more people should take advantage of it. I do. I can't imagine how much money I've saved over the last 10 years or so.
So for anybody who doesn't want to walk the mile or drive the mile to their library, there are digital solutions for this. So you can check out Libby. It's mostly books and magazines, but you get yourself a library card. It doesn't even really have to be a local library. I use one from California, which I'm not from California. You put in your library card into the application. You find the books that you want. You end up on a waiting list until they're available because they only have a certain number of copies, and then you can just read the ebook. And then there's another one called Hoopla. Hoopla has unlimited copies of everything that they have, so you don't get on waiting lists. You can do that for books, magazines, movies, and TV shows as long as you have your library supports it, which most of them do. So you can put your card into Hoopla. They have applications for iOS and Android, and you can just read your books, watch TV shows, watch movies, whatever, directly from there. Now, their selection isn't as wide as probably going to the library is, but you're also doing it from your Barker Lounger without having to actually, leave your house. So great for those of us who are not interested in leaving the front door. So there's that. Traffic, go ahead.
I would like to say thank you to Hunter. I also advocate for local libraries. Another weird, goofy method that I know of is if you buy movies off of iTunes and you use the iTunes Windows app, they do let you keep your movie as an MP4 or MOV or whatever, like forever. And this is like all completely legal, which is the craziest part about it. And I don't know why Apple does this, but they do, and I'm not complaining in the slightest. But I do have one problem, at least, that I've experienced over the years, which is I am in possession of some very rare music. By that I mean the Yu-Gi-Oh soundtrack. The only way you can get the Yu-Gi-Oh soundtrack is you had to live in Japan 20 years ago, which I did not. And you also could only get it as a CD. Where can you get it online? Is it streaming? No, doesn't stream anywhere. It's like completely gone, lost in the ether. No one has it. It's amazing. It's hilarious. The other problem is like region locked content. I literally experienced this the other day. I wanted to download the stupid app off of the Play Store. Guess what? Doesn't exist in the Play Store. Why? Because it's region locked to Japan. It's just a Flappy Bird clone. Why? I don't know. Just because. And then I felt really dirty having to rip it off of some APK website, but it doesn't matter. YouTube, it's a free app. Don't go after Matt over this. It was literally free. And like there was no other way to get it. I don't even know why it was region locked. But like that's another thing, because like if you have like DVDs or like game consoles and you're trying to like do stuff, then like some of them are just region locked. Freaking blows.
Well, the good news is that there's Make MKV. It's a okay. So YouTube, close your ears. So you guys remember back in the day, Netflix actually used to send out DVDs in the mail. One of the ways I got a lot of my DVDs was I actually paid for that and then ripped all of them to my hard drive. So that's how I still have a whole bunch of them. Yeah, I broke the law, and the law won. No, Sorry, that was an old joke. But anyways, if you have DVDs and they are region locked, make MKV can rip those to your hard drive so that you can play them. There's something specific you have to do if you're not in that region, but yeah, it'll work. So yeah, the interesting thing I have. Sorry, I got distracted by the draft again. So actually, Hunter, why don't you go ahead and go, and I'll pay attention to the draft. Go ahead. Don't forget to mute yourself.
I actually do use my local library for movies as well. I did use Hoopla, but there's another one called Canopy that's real good as well, and it's good for movies and everything as well. So yeah, I use Canopy and Hoopla together. It's basically the same thing, but they're good. So they're good together, I think.
Yeah, I use both of them too, and then I get a lot of EPUBs from different places around the internet as well. And I still every once in a while buy one from Amazon, just because it's easy. Like a lot of indie authors will either they sell it to you on their website, but they only take obscure like Bitcoin, Monero, cryptocurrencies, or they do it.
Well, I think there is actually a way to jailbreak your Kindle and stuff if you ever want to. I was looking at a video the other day on how to jailbreak a Kindle and what it could do.
Yeah, so I think the whole my eventual goal is to get rid of the streaming services altogether. I think that I would like to do that. I've talked about that on the podcast before. Um, like I don't want to pay $120 or whatever it is a year for Deezer. I don't want to have to pay that for Spotify. I don't want to pay. So I do subscribe to a couple streaming services for. I have the Max Disney Plus and Hulu bundle. It's like $16.99 a month, and that's the absolute max I'll ever pay for it. Like we only ever use Max. The other two we never even use them. But for what it is, it's a fairly good deal. But if they even raised that $1, I'd be out of the. I'm sorry, I'm gone. Hello Pirate Bay. Basically that's the way it would be, and that's really the streaming services. That's the biggest problem with them. Isn't that you don't own anything, because I mean you don't own anything anyways unless you're getting the physical media, and even then your license to it is only a little bit better than best. But the real problem is that the prices aren't stable. So like Netflix has raised the prices 4 times in the last year, and that's a problem. Like for me, that's a big problem. Like I want, if the internet service did that, my ISP did that, like we just wouldn't have internet. It wouldn't be sustainable for me. So, that's my biggest problem with streaming is just like it's not that it's even too expensive. It's just it's getting more expensive constantly, and I can't deal with that. So my eventual goal is just to get rid of all of it. But until I get my music library intact better, and I'm just not sure how I'm going to do it, right? Like I can't. I'm torn between just fixing what I have or deleting it and completely starting over, which would entail years and years of buying CDs, ripping them in appropriate formats, making sure they all have the right metadata. And even then, the other day I ripped a couple CDs and it still didn't put all the right metadata in, even though I specifically entered it. Plex hates me. Trafficking, go ahead. Can't hear you, Trafton.
All right, I did want to comment on the Kindles. There is the older Kindles use, I want to say Linux. I don't remember what, but it's like Linux 2 point something, so it's like insanely old. So like there's some people who run like I think it was like Postmarket OS fork or something that uses specifically stuff for Kindles if you look it up. And then there's like a bunch of like other plugins and things you can use with it. And then with the newer Kindles, I have no idea. It's like Android, but it's like not Android because like Amazon does stuff to them. So it depends entirely on what you're doing. And I think didn't Amazon also get rid of the offline download for books?
Yeah, well, yeah, you can't actually download them to a non-Kindle device. Like you can download them to Kindle devices, but you can't go to your Amazon account and download them to your computer anymore. And that's been hit or miss for years, anyways. But yeah, they got rid of that recently too, um, which sucks. What are you gonna do? I mean, it was inevitable, really, because of DRM and shit. Anybody else have any topics? Anything else on the self-hosting that they want to do? What? Let me ask you this question: if you do self-host, what do you use? Do you use Plex? Do you use Jellyfin? Or if you doing books, obviously Calibra is about the only option for you. But if you're self-hosting, what are you? I know Hunter said he was using Kodi. Anybody else use anything that they'd like to talk about before we hop out of here?
I think I might have been the only one that really does the self-hosting.
Oh well, in
So-
case Fraggle, you said you were using Jellyfin, right?
Yes, yeah. It was really easy to set up. I have everything stored on my NAS. I have Jellyfin set up on a little Raspberry Pi that I use for some services, like remote access services. And that I can connect to my local media no matter where I am. The Jellyfin app works great on my phone. It's just easy. It was really easy and straightforward to set up. So
I wish the enablement of video transcoding was automatic. Like so it just it recognized whatever you had and it set it up. Like right out of the box, bam, there you go. But it doesn't. For, at least for me, it never did that. I had to choose and I could never get to work. So that's the reason why I'm still on Plex. Otherwise, I'd been on Jellyfin ages ago. GNU to Linux. Go ahead.
I use Plex on Linux Mint. I don't have a dedicated computer just for that. I just use one of my desktops with a hard drive attached to it, whatever video files of movies or television episodes that I've downloaded from whatever sources. I just point it at the drive and Plex works. The setup's really easy on Linux Mint, and I was able to install the Plex app on my Fire TV stick, which I have on all my TVs, which allows me to use an actual remote control. So I could sit back in a chair or on my couch and point my remote on the big screen TV and, use it just like I'm using like an old school remote control. And I find it to be, even the free version of Plex, I don't need any of the special services that the paid version has. So far, so good.
Yeah, I've paid for Plex for years. I've given them way too much of my money. But the UI is better than Jellyfin unless you do a whole bunch of CSS stuff. The transcoding is automatic. The app on the mobile is better, although there are better third-party clients, I guess. So there are many reasons why I chose Plex, but Plex has become so expensive. It can be hard to justify. Keep going. Hep Dad, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm pretty much still old school because I'm an old dude, but my music I keep it on a backup drive, but then I put it on my operating system drive and I have Rhythm Box control all that. Um, I any MP4s and stuff I just have in a folder, and when I want to watch them, I just click them and watch them on VLC. I movies, as far as nowadays, I pretty much use YouTube. If I find a movie that's a decent price and everything, I'll buy it. I prefer to buy it versus rent it because I may want to go back and watch it, and I just go to YouTube and watch the movie then. But most commonly, if I really want to enjoy a YouTube movie, I switch to my TV, WebOS, and then I access YouTube from there because then I can watch it at 4K. But because they won't let you do 1080p or 4K through the computer, even if you own the movie, if you don't subscribe to their YouTube service. So, that's pretty much, I don't have any kind of server or anything. I used to do that stuff, try to make sure I was connected in the network to other computers and stuff and share files and all that, but I got tired of that. So, and because hard drives got so big, I didn't have to. So that's how I take care of movies and stuff. And I don't subscribe. I'll subscribe to Netflix if they offer a special and there's something I want to watch. Now, as soon as Fallout goes into its next season, I will probably subscribe to it then. I use it and watch that, and then I'll cancel. So I may pay for a month. And Prime Video, I will subscribe to it when I order something and I want to get a little bit of money off. And then once it gets close to my renewal to where they're going to take money out, I cancel it. So
Yeah,
that's
I do.
my
I do the same thing. My biggest problem with the streaming services like that is going to be upcoming as the NFL decides they're going to put more and more games on streaming. That's going to be a problem for a lot of people because you're going to want if I want to watch my Eagles play, you know, and I have to have uh, well, Peacock and Netflix and Amazon and all these things, like, paying like $400. You remember when we all bitched about paying $80 a month for cable and getting everything, and now you're gonna pay $300 a month for several different services and not have anything that you want to actually watch. It's gonna be way worse experience, and we all wanted this. It's all our fault. Nate, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Nate.
How y'all doing? I actually run Plex right now because I bought the Plex Pass, but I bought the one that's like I never have to buy it again. But in the same sense, I'm also kind of in the process of switching over to Jellyfin because even they have started trying to force me to stream things I already own in my library, and that kind of ticks me off. So, needless to say, good chance Jellyfin's fixing to become my main, and also Plex does not work well if you're offline. Period. It will sit there and spin forever. So, Jellyfin never had it spin once. It uses my local intranet, I would say, and works just fine.
The offline thing is really nuts. I can't believe that. I mean, because Plex used to be like, oh, your software is on your computer. Like we have the Plex software on the system. Why isn't it working? But yeah, it all has to
Yeah,
run
it's
through.
weird.
It all has to run through their servers. They're collecting all that fancy data because they gotta sell it to other people. They used to be so much more less icky than they seem now, right? Trafficking, go ahead.
So, Hip Dad, you actually got me thinking because payment method is actually just something that you made me think about just now. I don't know if this is true of anyone else, but at least it is here in the U.S. At least to most places I've lived in the U.S. You can go to like like a grocery store or like a convenience store. You can get gift cards. So if you cancel your credit card, you can always put like get gift cards for the time that you have to like pay for your subscription. And then when they run out, they can't charge you anymore because it's just a gift card and there's a set amount on it. I mean, like you can use like services like I mean, there are like I don't want there are like payment masking services like Revolut, privacy.com, but they are sometimes the vendors don't like them, especially Amazon really doesn't like them. Um, at least my observations.
Hip Dad.
I will say that one thing that I've noticed that they have improved on, as far as like Netflix and Prime Video and all that, is they do uh, let you do a checkbox on saying, "Please warn me such and such days before you do an automatic renewal," and they are pretty good about that nowadays. So, because in the past they wouldn't tell you nothing, you'd be, "Eh, da, 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 da. Why is my account overdrafted?" Well, you only had $5 and they took 20. So now you got to pay 35 for $15 you didn't have.
It's because they were sued by the FTC 9 years ago.
Oh, were they? Okay. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. But yeah, I mean, but your little trick sounds like a pretty good one though. I mean, what I've done is I went in and put in another card and then canceled the old one, then switched and canceled the other new one. Because if you try to cancel the old one when you have a future transaction coming up. They try to finagle it so it doesn't happen. But it seems like if you put in a new one and then cancel the old one, then you can flip at that same time and cancel the new one.
I've always tried to do is just subscribe as much as possible through either Apple or Google Play. I know that sounds horrible, but both of them do a really good job of telling you when a subscription is going to renew. And they just email you, and then if I need to cancel, like I just got one for Ivory the other day. I'm no longer on iOS. I don't need it anymore. So being told that that's going to renew, I can go in there and cancel it. Plus, it's just easier to have one place have my credit card instead of 12 different ones, right?
Yeah, I've been using Google Play more lately. Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of the like Netflix or whatever doesn't allow you to pay through Google Play or Apple because they want all the money, which I guess makes sense. Nate, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just going to say thank God for Captain Jack Sparrow. If you get my drift. Thank you.
We've already been demonetized many times over. I mentioned Pirate Bay earlier, and so I can only be blamed myself. Arch Penguin, go ahead. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to mention something that a lot of banks offer expendable numbers for online purchases. So they'll assign you an expendable and or some credit cards will do that too. That allows you to be able to just cut it off right away.
Yeah, and there's a couple services if you don't want it to be controlled by your bank, you could do that. But
hey, what's this? Is it picking the best distro still or no?
No, we burned that topic out. We moved on to streaming and self-hosting music and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm Jellyfin all the way on Debian, so it works great. I mean, if I wanted to, I could literally even do the reverse proxy thing, or you can also use what do you call it? I can't think. WireGuard. You set that up, and you can actually access it if you want to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I want to open up anything though.
I use Nginx to do it, so that works out pretty well. Yeah. I have both installed in a Docker container, so it works. Jellyfin works really good in a Docker container, but doesn't do. Maybe that's the reason why I have transcoding problems is because I use it in Docker. Matter of fact, probably it is. But Plex works awesome in a Docker container, like really, really good. It's like I'll never use Plex not in a Docker container ever again. It just works. Like I always had trying to get access to an external hard drive with running Plex on bare metal was an impossible thing. In Docker, it just sees everything. It's fantastic. Nate, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to contribute to the original topic. Pop OS.
Go ahead. That's fine.
Oh, that's it. Just Pop OS. Thank you.
That's the only choice you need, right? That's okay. All right. He's wrong, but it's nice that he thinks that he's right. Hip Dad, go ahead.
MX Linux fanboy here. AHS version. XFCE 4.20. Thank you.
All right. You might actually be the only person I know who runs MX Linux, to be honest with you. Than every person who apparently downloads or looks at Distro Watch. All right. Anybody else have anything to say on either of the topics? Or are we done for the evening? Going once, twice, 3 times. All right. I think that's where we'll stop. We went for an hour 25 tonight, which is a little bit shorter than normal, but that's okay. We did do 2 of the topics that were on the poll. That'll mean that I can take some of these off. But before we go, I do have some housekeeping that I want to do. So first off, if you watch this live, thank you so very, very much for doing so. We do 2 Linux user groups per month, and let me see if I can get these times right because I always say the wrong thing. So the first one is on the second Tuesday of every month. That's at 11:15 a.m. Eastern Time. I got it right, nailed it.
Thursday.
Yeah. Anyways, so 11:15 a.m. Eastern time. You can always find out that's going to happen by following me in Mastodon or joining the distro the Discord, and I always tweet out and message out when that's going to happen. And we also have a poll usually before that happens. We also do a second lug, which is this one, is at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time on the fourth Thursday of month. Did I say Tuesday on the first one? And then
You did.
I was so happy that I nailed it. That's great, man. I'm horrible with dates. Anyways, the second Thursday, fourth Thursday, I need to pay someone to say those dates for me. And maybe I should tattoo them on my head or something because I always get them wrong. There is a calendar link somewhere floating around. I believe it's linked in the lug chat on the Discord. So if you want to add that to your calendar, you can do that. It's a Nextcloud calendar, but should be importable into Google Calendar or whatever it is that you use for your calendar, so that you can kind of be reminded without having to rely on someone who can't tell the difference between Tuesday and Thursday. Whatever. Anyway, so thank you so much for joining us if you watch us live. If you can't join us, you can always watch it on the YouTube channel. We do stream it alongside, and you guys can just kind of chat in the chat. Usually they have just as much fun there as we have on the lug itself. So there's that. The second thing that I want to do, all of you guys who joined and the people who are in the chat as well, if you have ideas for topics, I'm looking for those things, and I'm always on the constant lookout for topics for both the lug and the podcast. If you want to send them to me, email at thelinuxcast.org. That's the best place to do that and get those to me. Or you can ping me on Discord or send them to me on Mastodon. It doesn't really matter where you get it, as long as you get it to me. If we use your topic, I will send you something from the TLC shop. The TLC shop. A hat or a sticker or something. So if I use your topic and we have a good time with it. So I think that's all I needed to do. I want to go watch the draft afterwards. So I'm being a little selfish ending it earlier, but that's okay. So I think that's all I need to talk about. So everybody who's watching live, thank you so very much for joining us. We'll see y'all next time.